Welcome back, everybody. It always saddens me to have to make videos like this. I decided to wait until the early hours of April 12th, East Coast time in the United States, to make this video because I wanted to expose the sick ritual that went on for UMass winning the rigged and scripted college hockey national championship over St. Cloud State April 10th. And I waited specifically until April 12th because this is Pittsburgh Day, 412. Pittsburgh's home of the 412 area code. This national championship was played in Pittsburgh. I'm from Pittsburgh. And as usual for these championships, 3 men were murdered as part of this ritual. And I'm going to show you what a sick joke this was and why we need to expose this to put an end to what's really going on. So if you're new here, we talk about the language of Gematria, which is a language you have to know to see through murder by numbers, to see through rigged sports, to see through rigged elections, to see how your news is contrived garbage every single day. Whether you think it's dumb or not is irrelevant. The people who run your world, who are the Jesuit order, they don't think it's dumb, and they conduct these rituals every single day to play God over the masses, because Gematria comes from Kabbalah. Kabbalah has the core belief that God created the world with letters, numbers, and words. We talk about 4 base ciphers: the alphabetic order, the reverse alphabetic order, and the alphabetic order in the reverse with the rules of numerology, meaning you break every letter down to a single digit. So any letter, word, or phrase will have 4 numerical values attached to it. And you need all 4 base ciphers to see through the scripting, to see the totality of the ritual. So let's get into this. We're going to talk about the death of Herb Brooks, Mark Pavelich, and the former Maine Black Bears head coach, Red Gendron, and how this is all tied up and synced together with the miracle on ice. So the UMass Minutemen won their first national championship 5-0 over St. Cloud State. And as I talked about before the game on Patreon, expect a major tribute to Herb Brooks and the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team and his former player, Mark Pavelich, who was also murdered for this championship. I'm going to show you how they're tying this all together. I'm going to bring this all together. This is going to be a lot to digest, so sit back and get ready to learn. So, Herb Brooks dropped dead August 11th. That's a date written 11/8, like 118. The mainstream media before this game was making a big deal about the University of Massachusetts having not lost since January 18th, the other date written 118. And what I want you to see is how St. Cloud Huskies, when you run the alphabetic order in reverse with the rules of numerology, sums to 118, like the date January 18th, like the date August 11th. And from the date of the national championship until Herb Brooks's birthday was exactly 118 days. You could also say it's a span of 117 days, like how his full name, Herbert Paul Brooks Jr., is 117, but it's a total span of 118 days. For those of you that have trouble understanding that, think about it this way. Today's April 12th, 2021. From April 12th, 2021 to April 12th, 2021 is how many days? 0, right? But April 12th, 2021 is still one day, is it not? From 12 a.m. to 11:59 p.m., a total span of 1,440 minutes. So from April 12th, 2021 to April 12th, 2021 is 0 days in between, but it's still a total span of one day. So if you had trouble understanding that, hopefully that cleared it up for you. So the NCAA verified account on Twitter tweeted this. They said, "A shutout on the biggest stage, and the Minutemen are national champions. For the first time in program history, UMass hockey wins the national championship with a dominant 5-0 win against St. Cloud State in the Steel City." And don't forget, the last game UMass lost, as we talked about, was January 18th, and that came against Boston University. And notice how Boston University sums to 125, just like Steel City sums to 125. Steel City is the nickname for Pittsburgh. And notice Steel City is also 118, like the date of this game, January 18th. And keep in mind the score of this game, UMass lost 4-3. That should make you think about the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team that defeated the Soviet Union in the semifinals by the same score of 4-3. And again, Gematria is very simple. What you're looking at here is the alphabetic order and the reverse alphabetic order. So S, the 19th letter, T, the 20th, E, the 5th, E, the 5th, L, the 12th, C, the 3rd, I, the 9th, T, the 20th, Y, the 25th. Added up, it's 118. When you run the alphabetic order backwards, S is 8, T is 7, E is 22, E is 22, L is 12, C is 24, I is 18, T is 7, Y is 2. Added up, 125. Very simple code. A second grader could learn this. This cipher is the same as ordinal. The only difference is you break every letter down to a single digit. You know, B the second letter, O the 15th, so 1 plus 5 is 6, S the 19th, 1 plus 9 is 10, 1 plus 0 is 1, T the 20th letter, 2 plus 0 is 2, and so on. So, the reason 125 matters is because on the date December 5th, the date written 12/5, 125, a lot like 125, UMass beat Merrimack 3-1. And the reason the score 3-1 matters is because the original documentary about the 1980 Olympic hockey team was released March 1st, 1981. The date written 3/1 in the United States, like how the score of this game ended 3-1. And notice Merrimack is 62, St. Cloud State Huskies sums to 62, Soviet Union sums to 62. And the movie Miracle that came out on what date? February 6th, 2004, a date that's written 6/2. Russia is one of the countries that writes February 6th, 6/2, you know? That's why you got to learn to write dates both ways, regardless how you were taught in school. It can be written 2/6 or 6/2. Now, from December 5th to April 10th is exactly 126 days. And we're going to get to the 18 weeks and 4 months and 5 days. But the reason 126 matters is because Frozen 4 sums to 126. And the 18 weeks makes you think about the ritual we just talked about on the 18th day of the year. Now, the reason UMass won this game 5-0 is because Herb Brooks in the most pure cipher sums to 50, a lot like 50. And Herb Brooks, if you're not aware, he coached the Pittsburgh Penguins, where this game was played, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And he also used to coach St. Cloud State during the 1986-87 season. And St. Cloud State plays its home games at the Herb Brooks National Hockey Center, which sums to 142. And Herb Brooks is dead August 11th, 2003, the day leaving 142 days left in the year. Now, Mark Pavelich, who played for Brooks on the 1980 Olympic team, he dropped dead on 3/4. But the media came out and said that they confirmed his death was a suicide on April 5th, a date written 4/5 or 5/4. And notice suicide sums to 119 and 70, just like Mark Pavelich sums to 119 and 70. And you have to remember that the date he died can be written 4/3, which is the score the United States beat the Soviet Union by. It's also the score that Boston University beat Massachusetts by on the 18th day of the year. And he's dead on 3/4. The date's written 4/3 in Russia. It's written 3/4 in the United States. Notice suicide's 34. Miracle is 34. We're talking about the Miracle on Ice. The word murder is also 34, and there's no doubt that there was no suicide. Mark Pavelich absolutely murdered by the numbers. Dead at age 63 on the 63rd day of the year. We're going to get to that. So, the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team, they won the gold medal over Finland. We'll tie Finland into this at the very end, but I want you to notice how that happened February 22nd. February 22nd is the 53rd day of the year. It's also the day leaving 312 days left in the year. And notice how Massachusetts Minutemen sums to 312. And Massachusetts Minutemen is also 132, like United States of America. And in light of 53, that should make you think about how 53 is the 16th prime number, how Mark Pavelich wore the number 16, and the Patriots, who are in Massachusetts, like the University of Massachusetts, they won Super Bowl 53 with 16 combined points. So, Herb Brooks was born August 5th, 1937. That's the 217th day of the year. Notice how Miracle on Ice is 217. New England Patriots is also 217. The semifinals were played on the date April 8th. That's a date written 4-8 or 8-4, which we'll get to. And on that date, St. Cloud State beat Minnesota State 4-5 or 5-4. The very next, only 3 days after the death of after the reported death of Mark Pavelich via suicide, on 4-5, St. Cloud State wins 4-5. And notice their name, St. Cloud State Huskies, sums to 251. That's the 54th prime number, like how this game ends 5-4. And Nolan Walker scored the game-winning goal for St. Cloud State with 53 seconds left in the game, like how we're talking about the Miracle on Ice that happened on the 53rd day of the year when the Patriots won Super Bowl 53. And Nolan Walker sums to 45. Pavlich's death was announced a suicide on 4-5, and Frozen 4 is 45. He scores the biggest goal in the Frozen 4 up to that point. And notice the games were played and the date written 8/4, as I talked about. Jesuits 84. The Jesuits have been in Washington, D.C. longer than the Feds. That's not conspiracy theory. That's conspiracy fact. United States of America is also 84. We're talking about the U.S. Olympic hockey team. Think about the George Orwell book that came out in 1984. If you don't know about that book, you better read it. Need to do your homework. But Mark Pavelich played for Minnesota Duluth, and that was who the opponent of Massachusetts was during the other semifinal played on April 8th. And again, the UMD Bulldogs were eliminated in overtime 3-2 by UMass, and they were eliminated with exactly 5 minutes and 30 seconds left in the game. 5:30, 5-3, again, tying us into the Miracle on Ice. That goal was scored by Garrett Waite. We'll get to him in a minute. But after the death of Mark Pavelich on March 4th, to April 8th, 2021 was exactly 35 days later, and the UMD Bulldogs get eliminated by UMass 35 days after the death of Mark Pavelich. You get the death of the UMD Bulldogs 2020-2021 season. See how this works? So from the date of the semifinals to Herb Brooks's death was exactly 126 days, and that reminds us of the UMass Merrimack game of December 5th that ended 126 days before the national championship. And notice Nolan Walker, who scored the game-winning goal for St. Cloud State, notice how his name's 126, just like Frozen 4 is 126. Now, what I want to talk about is the death of Red Gendron. Red Gendron was the former coach of the Maine Black Bears, who was a former assistant at the University of Massachusetts. And he dropped dead one day before Massachusetts wins the national championship. You got to ask yourself, what are the odds? If you've been around this community, we talk about these suspicious deaths all the time in all sports all across the globe. And notice he drops dead at age 63. And that reminds us of the death of Mark Pavelich, who dropped dead at age 63 on the 63rd day of the year. And notice how his name sums to 49. He was dead April 9th, the date written 4/9. And notice his name in English ordinal sums to 104, like how the national championship was on April 10th, a date written 10/4, a lot like 104. This year's the 104th season of the NHL. This date can also be written 9/4. If you follow me on Patreon, we've talked a lot about the number 94 and the scripted Stanley Cup Finals that's about to be this year. Has a lot to do with the number 94. So we're going to talk about this goal scored by Reed Lebster with 1 minute and 4 seconds left in the first period. Now, what I want you to see is how we're going to watch this clip, but the shots on goal were 5-1 up until this point. UMass is going to score, bringing the shots to 6-1, and they're going to score with exactly 1 minute and 4 seconds left in the period. I want you guys to see just how scripted these games are. We're going to watch this little clip, and then I'm going to show you the ritual behind this. Hopefully they don't give me a copyright strike for this.
Wrap around again, it's in.
104. Look at that.
Very, very close to being offside. We'll see what happens. But for now, Reed Lebster and the Minutemen make it 2-0. But you see St. Cloud, they have questions on whether that play was onside. Let's look at the goal and we'll see what happens. Okay.
So they make the shots 6-1 by taking a 2-0 lead in the first period with 104 remaining, like how their former assistant coach drops dead on 10/4 right before the national championship. One day, or his name sums to 104, and he drops dead 1 day before the national championship on 10/4. And as for the word miracle, think about it. Miracle sums to 61, and UMass makes the shots 6-1. And just think about that. How are you in the national championship if you're St. Cloud State? You've played 19 minutes of hockey, you're losing 1-0, and you have one shot on goal 19 minutes into a championship game. Anybody who has ever played hockey, you know that this is impossible. There is no way that you're going to be in a national championship game and you're going to have one shot on goal 19 minutes into the game. If you've ever played ice hockey in your life, as I have for many years, you know that that's just a complete farce and a total, and it just cannot happen. It's not going to happen, okay? I've played hockey my entire life. I've never one time been on a team or played against a team that's only had one shot on goal. I was a goaltender. I know this. It's not possible, guys. They're setting up the narrative perfectly. 61 is the 18th prime number. Remember, we talked about the ritual that took place on the 18th day of the year. Merrimack and UMass happened 18 weeks before the national championship. The semifinals were 18 weeks before the death of Herb Brooks. 34, murder 34, suicide 34, Mark Pavelich dead on 3/4. Suicide 34, Red Gendron, his birthday's the day leaving 34 days left in the year. And just look at Reed Lebster. Look at how his name's 113 and 50, just like Herb Brooks, 113 and 50. Pittsburgh in the most pure cipher, this dark blue cipher known as Pythagorean Gematria, is also 50. And as for the 47, that should remind you that from the miracle on ice to the national championship is exactly 47 days. And don't overlook the 1 month and 19 days, like how suicide's 119 and Mark Pavelich is 119. And suicide, 47, and just think about the 47 degrees on the Masonic compass. 47's a big boss number. We got Slow Joe in office right now, who becomes the president after being in D.C. for 47 years. When president's 47, D.C.'s 47, authorities 47, White House is 47, government's 47, Republicans 47, Democrats 47. 47 is how we measure the tropics that measure the solstices, 23.5 degrees north, 23.5 degrees south, Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn, added up 47. Gendron coached the Maine Black Bears. Maine Black Bears sums to 100. The national championship on April 10th is the 100th day of the year. So do you think it's a coincidence every year that from Red Gendron's birthday to Herb Brooks's birthday is exactly 251 days? Like how St. Cloud State Huskies is 251, as we already talked about. Jesuit Orders 54, 251's the 54th prime number. Again, the Jesuits are the ones who are responsible for all of this. Murder by numbers, rigged sports, rigged elections, race war by the numbers, bullshit news by the numbers. Gematria is not what's bullshit. What's bullshit is the news. It got you to believe a man in a cave took down NORAD on 9/11. Anyway, don't overlook the 8 months and 9 days, right? Massachusetts was in their 89th season. They just won the national championship in their 89th season of play. And again, Jesuit Order 144, just like Frozen 4. Who do you think came up with that name? Again, a lot of people will sit there and go, ooh, Illuminati. Well, who created the Illuminati? The Jesuit Adam Weishaupt. So notice Gendron, again, dead at age 63. Mark Pavelich, dead at age 63, and the 63rd day of the year. Frozen 4, 63. Now, in light of the death of Mark Pavelich, there's a much greater narrative here. But, you know, those of you on Patreon, you know what that's for. So anyway, his November 27th birthday, as we talked about, leaves 34 days left in the year. And notice how his name, Dennis Gendron, that's 142. Like coronavirus, this is during the time of coronavirus. Garrett Waite's 142. He scored the goal to eliminate the UMD Bulldogs, Mark Pavlich's school, with 50 through 5 minutes and 30 seconds left in overtime. 142, Herb Brooks National Hockey Center, 142, where St. Cloud State plays its home games. Now, the reason we really liked Massachusetts to win the national championship was because of this right here. I said it's all about 118. The media, anytime the media hypes up something, you got to find the gematria behind it because that's going to tell you the winner. Notice January 18th, again, St. Cloud State Huskies is 118. And from January 18th to the national championship was exactly 82 days, or 2 months and 23 days, like how Herb Brooks was murdered on the 223rd day of the year. But the 82 days really matters because UMass just became 8-2 in the NCAA tournament. And remember, we talked about how the Miracle on Ice was on the 53rd day of the year, and Greg Carvel, the coach of UMass, his name's 53. The game's in the arena of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Pittsburgh Penguins is 241, the 53rd prime number. Maine Black Bears is 253, who Red Gendron coached, and New England Patriots, who won Super Bowl 53, summed to 82. So I was like, I don't know. This looks pretty good for Massachusetts to get the win like New England did. And notice New England, the Patriots, congratulate them. Congrats to the champs on Twitter. Again, these people who run these verified accounts, they all know what they're doing. So the coach of UMass, Greg Carvel, I want you to see how he's born on the 229th day of the year. That's the 50th prime number. He's 50 years old, and Pittsburgh's 50, and Herb Brooks is 50, and UMass won the game 5-0. And from the national championship to his upcoming birthday is exactly 130 days, like how Pittsburgh's 130. And look at this. Carvel won his 94th game at UMass to win the national championship, and that should remind you of Red Gendron, who died on the date written 9/4. Notice how he stayed in 157 losses. United States is 157. Again, there's a much greater narrative here, and for those of you on Patreon, you know what that's for. So Coach Red here, notice his career. He won exactly 103 games. And notice how every single year from Carvel's birthday to Gendron's birthday is 103 days. And Gendron wins the national championship in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which sums to 103. And he gets his 94th all-time win when Gendron was dead on 9/4. So Brett Larson, he was the coach for St. Cloud State. He's the one who took the L. Notice how he stayed on 63 losses in the national championship game in the Frozen Four, 63, stayed on 63 wins, I should say. Notice how he got his 32nd loss championship when you run the alphabetic orders, 131, the 32nd prime number. And you just have to love how this guy coached in his 104th game on the date written 10/4 when his team gives up a goal with 1:04 left in the opening period, when Red Gendron drops dead a day before the national championship and his name's 1:04. It's like, come on, people. How do you not see this? And look at this. From Larson's birthday to Gendron's birthday every single year is exactly 100 days. And Maine Black Bears is 100, and the national championship on 10/4 was the 100th day of the year. I mean, that's why this man was chosen. He didn't die naturally. I don't care what his excuse was. This man was murdered for the championship because he had the right numbers. Did you ever hear of the term in relation to death called your numbers up? This is exactly what they're talking about. You know? And again, notice how this man lost 137 games. 137 is the 33rd prime number. St. Cloud State 33, Massachusetts 33. And on the date written 5/3, Massachusetts and Maine played to a 3-3 tie. And that's the date written 5/3. Remember, Pittsburgh Penguins 241, the 53rd prime number. Greg Carvel 53, Maine Black Bears 53. The miracle on ice happened on the 53rd day of the year. The New England Patriots won Super Bowl 53 when New England Patriots is 8-2, and Massachusetts became 82 days after January 18th, the last date that they lost. And St. Cloud State Huskies is 118. Guys, it's only possible because of a script. For those of you that watch that clip that we just watched together and you say, how's this possible? Understand it's all a script. It's no different than when you watch the movie Miracle. Everything you see looks very real, but you know it's actors playing out a script. You know, that's why they make movies about this stuff. They're writing the script in the movies just like they're writing the script for the quote unquote real life. You know, it's no different. You know, can the sport of hockey be rigged? Of course it can. It's rigged just like every other sport is. If there's Vegas gambling on it, it's scripted. On Patreon, we've shown how every sport's scripted. Go back and look at my work on the AFL, the NRL, you know, the Premier League, the NHL, MLB, NFL, MLB, they're NASCAR. They're all rigged the same way. You know, it is theater. That's what this stuff is. You know, it's a distraction from what's really going on. And that's why we need to expose this stuff. You know, R.I.P. to Red Gendron, R.I.P. to Herb Brooks, R.I.P. to Mark Pavelich. You know, there was also another man who was murdered as a ritual for the you know, for the, well, I don't want to say what it is because it'll give it away, but, you know, that's not fair to the people on Patreon. But again, understand, this is what we have to put an end to. This is what we have to stop. You know, quit investing in these leagues. Quit buying tickets. Quit buying merchandise. You know, you're supporting people that literally rape you. They steal your wealth. They steal your time. They steal your energy. You know, you guys got to learn to let this stuff go. This stuff needs to be exposed. The fact that this video will probably never go viral is a shame. Same thing with all of Zachary Hubbard's work, who brought this into the light, who I learned from. You know, we got to put an end to this stuff, guys. You know, yeah, you can gamble on it. Yeah, you can make money on it, but it's not all about making money. You know, money's not everything. You know, if we make this world a better place, we wouldn't all have to be slaves to this monopoly money. You know, but, yeah, you know, RIP to these three gentlemen, and hopefully we can put an end to this stuff, guys. Until next time.